let's try and move on and take some of those themes forward to looking at sort of the new models. We've had some really interesting points so far. Andrew's point about sort of competitive differentiation and so on. Philippe, let me just start with you. Now, your company, and you have this sort of vision of where companies should take the back office, right? And it's about centralisation and integration and breaking down silos. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on your vision, and then we can kind of weigh in and probably tear it to shreds?
Okay. Well, I view this in back office. There's certain aspects, certain business processes are critical to the firm, absolutely unique and very high value add, and these should stay in style. And the rest, well, should be outside. It's a very simple view of the world, but reference data, for example, managing the mapping from RICS to Bloomberg codes to ISINs to CEDAW, doing that across 500,000 firms across industry seems like a really, really bad idea, because at the end you come up with 500,000 versions of the truth. So it seems like reference data management, onboarding on new counterparties, managing the SSIs, and beyond that, doing some of the order confirmation information processes outside the back office seems to make a lot of sense. So the question is, what do the banks deem as absolutely critical, must have in house versus what should be inside? What could be outside as a utility service is what we are managing.
So is that not implying that if it's in house, it will be of a higher quality than if it's outsourced? Because if you're saying if it's critical, you should keep it in house. If it's not critical, outsource it.
Well, for me, quality, define. It's like having better electricity. Having a better closing price for IBM. It's like if better quality doesn't matter. What matters is that we have the same closing price, right? So that it doesn't break the trade. So for me, it's about, are there some processes and some data that should be completely commoditized and managed outside of the firm, and does it give you any competitive edge of managing that in house versus having a central utility? And then, if a utility manages this, your data and ING's data and everybody else's data, take the top 20 banks, or the end quality of the utilities, the quality is going to be a lot better, right? Because you have something done for 20 banks to just done by one.
So the economies of scale argument,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think there's the economies of scale, but also I think if you take that example, then say if you're managing a process for 20 different banks, you've also got 20 different banks' intellectual input into that solution as well, as they change it and adapt it. So it actually reinforces it, I think, and makes it a better model, because you've got, sort of like the herd immunity almost thing, where everyone wants their thing and this and that, rather than just sort of having a bespoke solution for bank A, another one for bank B. If you can find those things which are more commodities, if you like, rather than sort of the ones that you would keep internally, then I think you will ultimately you'll get a much better service, shall we say, not product or technology, but a better service if we take the view of the services. So I think that's the more you have, I think it becomes more virtuous in a way, and you get more and more of it, and you get a much better solution.
Mm-hmm. I think what's core, non-core evolves over time. And again, I think if you take analogies of what other industries have been through, if you take the car manufacturing industry, Henry T. Ford did everything, including mix the paint and paint the vehicles. It was everything from soup to nuts. Would the car industry have survived carrying on doing it that way? Of course not. So they've moved from on an industry basis to a much more rationalized model to take out the obvious areas of duplication where there's no competitive advantage. So I think the trend, and given the crisis that we've had, and given where the financial services industry sees itself today, it has got a little bit of a reputational challenge on its plate, and therefore both service and efficiency and cost are absolutely the way forward on an industry basis. And I think if we look on an industry basis, then I think non-core activities, however defined, and at different levels, and I think you have to look at different dimensions. So there's pure technology capacity, technology infrastructure. There's applications. There's data. There's process. There's different levels that you can define. And your point earlier on, Damian, about middle office, I think that's moving towards saying, well, the process is controlled by the middle office. Yes. But if I take my underpinnings of infrastructure and application and data, that I can bring that all in. Why do I need to reinvent the wheel in terms of determining and cleansing reference data. I don't need to.
I agree with colleagues around the room in the sense that there are certain functions that every bank duplicates costs in that should, in my eyes, be lifted out into a shared service of some sort. It's identifying what those pain points are that are consistent across the industry. That's the challenge. Once they're identified, logical conversations would, I would hope, move it towards a shared utility service. Looking at reference data ourselves, as Philippe mentioned, we allocate ISINs and CDOLs, and we have a huge problem, not necessarily integrating our data with the firms, but speaking to firms that have taken our data via third parties and then in-house manual processes result in the data that we've actually put out to market being completely different and represented differently in the systems across the banks that are using that data. So there's obviously a challenge there, there's a disconnect. And I believe where we should be heading here is really like a hybrid solution where, for example, reference data, I read the other day a staggering sum of $1 billion a typical tier one firm is spending on reference data. That's consuming, matching, the people to cleanse it, systems, IT, etc. That there needs to be, in my view, a hybrid solution where there is a provider of common data that is consistently used across the industry, where firms can either outsource into that facility or alternatively, if they've sunk the investment internally, they don't want to throw that away, by all means keep it in-house, but use that facility as a benchmarking, periodic benchmarking facility where you can actually check the quality of the data and make amendments to the in-house systems. There needs to be a shift towards that, and at the moment there's a lot of talk in the industry about regulators putting their toes into the water to mandate it, ECB and Fed being two that are looking at it. My fear is that unless a commercial service is set up that provides that, the fear is on my side that a regulatory run service could be inefficient. So I think we do need to make a change, but in a hybrid way that provides choice.
Mm-hmm. Damian, you're nodding. What are your views on that solution?
I totally agree. I think it is the only way forward. But I think Andrew alluded to it earlier. Even within an organisation, we probably have various versions of the truth. Yeah. So ideally, yes, we should go to some external referencing service, commercial or otherwise. But I think you'll find it's going to be a very slow move there. It's the right thing to do, but it's going to be a very slow move because, first of all, we have to get our own houses in order, probably in the vast majority of cases. And until you've got your own house in order, you're not really in a fit position then to go and, if you like, take an externalised service from a group or a wider point of view. So I think that a lot of work needs to go on internally first, whilst keeping an eye on where you're aiming for. But there's not much point sort of if we in the UK went to use service X, but the rest of the group uses its own systems inside, you're kind of really just outsourcing your problem. You're not gaining any efficiencies. And I think there's a lot more efficiency can be wrung out of an organisation internally first, stabilise it, and then move it onwards.
I've been involved in projects with large institutions that have run for 5 years plus to do exactly that, up to 300 systems across a global organisation split by geography, asset type, reference data type, managed all separately by different teams of people to actually sort out, shall we say, the mess internally and get one consistent truth internally itself is many years of work. So my fear would be that in 5-10 years' time from now, we're still talking about this, and the firms haven't made the investment or haven't got the executive priority on those types of projects, and as a consequence, we're still in exactly the same shape that we're in now. So how it happens, I don't know, but it certainly should happen, and it should happen in this window that we've got. When volumes pick back up again, as I mentioned, I think this will be almost a forgotten topic, and profits will return, volumes will return, and middle back office will be, in my view, not forgotten, but certainly not the top priority anymore.
Great. Okay, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I'd like to thank my panellists and thank you very much for watching.